This is an oil tanker. At any given moment, thousands of these floating giants roam the world's oceans. But they have a huge flaw. And that flaw just might be the only thing preventing a blown-out global energy crisis. On February 28th, the US and Israel carried out a coordinated attack on Iran, killing their supreme leader. Of course, Iran retaliated and did what everyone was worrying about. They closed the Strait of Hormuz. And now all eyes are fixed on that single, narrow stretch of water. Why? Because it's the world's most important oil choke point. At its narrowest, it's only 21 miles wide. Yet through this tiny gap passes nearly 20 million barrels of oil every single day. That is about 1/5 of the world's total consumption. Therefore, shutting down the Strait of Hormuz means the global economy loses its main artery. It's an economic kill switch, and Iran just pulled it. But if the strait is so important, why are our lives still normal? Sure, our gas prices are a bit steeper, and that will have an impact on the economy. But there is no collapse. Our local gas stations are still open, and everything works as it should. How is that possible? Well, it all comes down to two things, and both of them have something to do with these giants. I will admit, I've never looked at it from this angle before, but now it makes so much sense why there is no pressure yet. Let's look at these oil tankers. For one, people don't understand how unimaginably massive these things are. It's even in their name, VLCC, or Very Large Crude Carrier. On average, these ships measure 4 football fields in length, which is around 330 meters, and each one of them has a carrying capacity from 200,000 to 320,000 tons. That's from 2 to 3 million barrels of oil. Plus, the whole ship weighs more than a skyscraper. And here is where that flaw I mentioned at the beginning, the one that's saving us, comes into play. If you have something with that much mass moving around, there's no way it can be fast. An average tanker travels at a speed of about 12 to 15 knots. That's roughly 15 miles, or 24 kilometers per hour. Therefore, we could easily say the tanker is moving at the speed of a bicycle. Now imagine this. We have something that moves like a bicycle, carries almost 3 million barrels of oil, and it has to deliver that oil all around the world. Let's say we start at the Strait of Hormuz. In order for that ship to get to Europe, it literally takes a month. Now imagine the same ship, but this time it has to reach the United States. That means it has to go all around the African coast, across the North Atlantic, to reach the US. And that is exactly why we don't feel the consequences of the war. And everything seems normal, because when the Strait of Hormuz was shut down, there are still oil tankers traveling to different parts of the world as we speak. Therefore, it takes time before the last one will arrive. In other words, the oil crash has not reached us yet. But when will it reach us? According to JP Morgan, these are the routes of the global oil flow. But we are only interested in the red one, that is the Persian Gulf route. And we can see that it goes through the Strait of Hormuz right over here. Now, when the war started and the strait was shut down, many tankers were still on the way toward their destinations as normal. Therefore, JP Morgan made predictions on when the oil shipments will stop. So according to them, most oil delivery for Europe is going to stop around April 10th. For Asia, it's going to stop around April 1st, so it has already stopped. The same goes for Africa, where it stopped on March 20th. For the United States, it's estimated around April 15th. And for Australia, around April 20th. Now, of course, all these places are not going to have trouble on those exact dates. They first need to use all the oil that arrived, plus all countries are prepared. Most of them have large strategic oil reserves. But when the last oil from the tankers is used, strategic reserves are not going to be the ones used next. If you remember, earlier I mentioned there are two things related to tankers. The first is the nature of the tanker, which we covered just now, but the other is purely economical. What most people don't know is that 12 nautical miles from the coastline, in international waters, there are countless oil tankers just sitting completely still, waiting for months at a time. These are not special ships. These are the same ones we mentioned just now, but they have a different purpose. They stay there for months, waiting for a moment like the one right now. You see, somewhere there is a company, or a person, or a family who bought 10, 20, maybe 30 full tankers of oil. Let's say, for this example, they bought 30 tankers. Instead of selling them, they park those ships just over 12 nautical miles off the coast, where international waters start. If you're wondering why international waters, because if a vessel is floating in international waters, no government on Earth can have jurisdiction over it. That means zero taxes and zero government oversight. So having 30 ships parked in international waters means you don't have to pay storage taxes, and there is no monitoring, supervision, or regulation. That means all that oil is sitting in floating warehouses with almost zero expenses. But we still don't know why they're doing that. Well, imagine those 30 tankers were bought on February 27th, one day before the war in Iran and the closing of the Strait. That day, the price of one barrel was around $67 US. Now, we said earlier that one tanker can store up to 3 million barrels of oil, but for simplicity, let's say it's 2 million. So for one tanker, that's 2 million barrels at $67 each. We said there are 30 tankers, so that's a $4.02 billion investment. Now imagine when all the oil is used up and it's time to open the strategic reserves. If the war is not over by then, analysts say it's reasonable to expect a barrel of oil to go up to $200. If that happens, that 30 tanker investment goes from $4.02 billion to $12 billion. That's an $8 billion profit. And that is why when the oil from the Middle East is gone and when the time is right, when the time is right for them, they will slowly start sending ships to the docks, one by one, little by little. This is called commodity storage arbitrage, and some people will and already are getting filthy rich from it. But even when those tankers are used up and the Middle East is still not open, that doesn't mean we'll run out of oil. Only 1/5 or 25% of all the oil is coming from the Middle East. If this is the world's oil supply and production, since the Strait of Hormuz is closed, we can still access 75% of all global supply. Therefore, countries that are heavily dependent on Middle Eastern oil will not run out. They will simply start buying from other producers. But here's the catch. They now have to outbid other competitors, which means prices will go up for everyone. Simple supply and demand economics. And a good example of that is Russia. It's been reported Russia is now making more than $760 million additional dollars per day from the oil shortage. Do you see it now? Why countries want to ration the oil we have left? It's to prevent price spikes. When we lower our consumption, two things happen. First, we delay purchasing new oil, meaning prices can stay lower for longer. Secondly, by rationing, we lower demand. That way, there will be enough supply for everyone and prices won't spike as much. So if we won't run out of oil, what can we expect? How is our day-to-day going to look? The first thing we can expect is gas prices going up. We can already see that happening. Secondly, to delay oil shortages, countries will start regulating how much gas you can fill in your car, like Slovenia already did. If things don't improve in Iran, the next step we can expect are movement restrictions. For example, shutting down schools, encouraging people to work from home, or going to work every second day. There is also a good chance we will see spikes in propaganda for alternative transport, like EV vehicles. And if things still don't improve, it is completely realistic to expect governments to enforce so-called energy lockdowns. If we pay attention, we can already hear them being mentioned. Moral of the story, someone is going to get extremely, unbelievably, filthy, disgustingly rich, while the common people suffer once again. Like the actor Russell Brand said, and I quote, "If you have an economic system where pharmaceutical companies benefit hugely from medical emergencies, where a military-industrial complex benefits from war, where energy companies benefit from the energy crisis, you are going to generate states of perpetual crisis where the interests of ordinary people separate from the interests of the elites." If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. And if you liked the video, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe so videos like this will find you.